everybody! Thanks for joining me for another episode of Cooking with Marissa with Dr. Soski in her kitchen. This week again, as I started last week, we're going to be raising some money for an awesome organization. This week I chose Somos Familia Vale. It is an organization near and dear to my heart for a number of reasons. It is from the San Fernando Valley, which is where I was born and raised. It also combines two issues that I'm really passionate about, which is LGBTQ plus rights and people Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and fighting for their rights. And so this organization is awesome because it brings those two things together. It was founded in 2014 and was created and led by local low-income first-generation college students who are part of the LGBTQ plus community. And the original idea was for this organization, started in the San Fernando Valley, to start a San Fernando Valley Pride, which they still continue to produce every year. It is a local organization led by people. It's led by trans, queer, people of color, dedicated to support, empower, train, and mobilize trans and queer people, immigrants, and families and allies for racial, gender, environmental, and economic justice. They organize intersectional justice liberation through transformative dialogue, advocacy, and civic engagement. They promote LGBTQ affirming homes, safer schools, and healthier communities through a commitment to being authentic, selves, community compassion and integration, family courage, bilingual health education, civic engagement, intersectionality, cultural humility, and social justice. They're a super awesome organization, and especially for those in the LA area, this is a local group for you. So if you feel driven throughout the course of this video to donate, there's a link attached. So please feel free to, I highly encourage you to donate to this great organization. So let's get started. So to give a quick introduction, my name is Marissa Soski. I'm a naturopathic doctor practicing in Oregon and California, and I started these cooking videos to help make healthy cooking more accessible to my friends and family and to the community at large, just by inviting them into my kitchen and seeing how I cook. I also have a master's in nutrition, so food and health is really my passion in life, and I wanted to bring that to you guys. So let's get started. Today we're gonna cook some salmon. So usually lately I've been cooking more vegan meals. So this recipe will involve some animal protein, but the highlight is really the creamy polenta dish that we're gonna be making. So the salmon and the veggies, pretty straightforward, really basic recipes, but the creamy polenta is a little bit more involved, and it's a great dish to go with many different. It's a great side dish to go with many other meals. So we'll get in. So I'm just gonna pull this up. And so the first thing we're gonna do is preheat our oven to 450 degrees for the salmon. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, and we're gonna prep by starting the salmon, or start by prepping the salmon. Sorry. So I have a nice piece of salmon here, just in a baking dish. And we're going to start by drizzling some olive oil all over it. And then if you want, you can take your hand and kind of move that around and get it all covered. And then I'm going to wash my hands just because it's oily now. And then we're going to take some spices. Now, I highly encourage you, if you're not used to cooking with spices, to actually take this time to just play with it. So maybe split your salmon piece mentally in half or in quarters, and try a small combination in one part, and then a different combination in another part, and then kind of play with different flavors and see, hey, how does this flavor combination work? Do these go together? Does that taste bad? And just experiment for yourself, because that's how you're going to really sustainably learn to mix these flavor combinations, is just by playing around. So today I picked out a few spices here. So I picked out some spices that you can see here. So I picked out mustard, black pepper, garlic, smoked paprika, and some parsley. So that's what I'm going to do today. So you just take your spices and get the lid in your food. And just lightly cover the salmon evenly with some spice. And then you're just going to do that for all of them. Pepper. Use the pepper. Some garlic powder. You never go wrong with garlic powder. Some smoked paprika. Some parsley. Alright, and then I'm going to take a lemon, just cut it in half, and drizzle that on top. You want to just kind of get it all over. Great, and then lastly, we're just going to sprinkle some salt. And that's it. Pretty easy peasy for the salmon. So we're going to set that to the side until our oven is heated. And then I'm going to chop some veggies. So for the polenta, there's a couple veggies that go into it. So we're going to do some onion and garlic. And then for our vegetable mix today, I'm just going to saute up some veggies to have on the side of everything. So nothing fancy. And so today I have, this is more what I needed to use up in my refrigerator. So I have some carrot, I have some broccoli, I have some kale that's pre-cut up that didn't make it into a recipe that I made earlier in the week, and then some more onion and garlic. But you can really saute up any vegetables together. And again, I encourage you to play with it and play with different combinations of veggies and see how you like it. I think onion and garlic is always a really nice staple for recipes. And then you can build off that, but not necessary. Also, if you don't have onion and garlic on hand, using onion, garlic, and onion powder is a nice replacement to get the flavor from those things, even if you don't have them in whole form. So for the polenta, the onion is going to be chopped pretty fine. So into small bits because you want it to really mix up into the polenta. So we're going to chop it pretty fine. So as you can see, I'm chopping it pretty small. also feel free, as I see some awesome people commenting as I go. Feel free to ask any questions about the recipe or about any health tips or nutrition facts about the vegetables we're using. Feel free to ask anything. We'll also say, as we're going, June is National Pride Month, and so it's really exciting. It's kind of gotten overshadowed by a number of things, rightfully so. One being the fact that we are stuck in quarantine, so no really big Pride gatherings or marches or parades or anything like that, which is okay. And then also with all of the protests going on for Black Lives Matter movement and ending police brutality and racial injustice. So this is, I think it's these two worlds, both the LGBTQ rights movement and racial oppression, really go hand in hand, and the two issues have a lot of overlap because a lot of people within the queer community are people of color. And in fact, the leaders of many of the queer resistance movements back earlier in the last century were people of color, and really white queer people are riding on their backs. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that these two movements really go hand in hand. And both need to be supported from the queer community. We need to support our brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters who are non-white, and so it's kind of awesome that this is all happening at once, because these issues, at least for me, are very related and very both important. Again, why I chose the organization I chose today, because there is that intersectionality of those two worlds within that organization. So. Really near and dear to my heart. For those of you who don't know, I am part of the queer community. I am a proud bisexual woman, and although I live a heteronormative life, which means I'm in a partnership with a male partner, it doesn't mean that I am any less involved or passionate about this community, and so I want to support as much as I can. And I ask for your support as well. So I got a question: what kind of non-dairy milk am I going to use for the polenta? So today I'm going to use a soy milk. So I think any milk really works, like rice milk, oat milk, almond milk would work too. I'm going to use soy milk today because I am trying to reduce the amount of excess sugars that I'm intaking, so added sugars. And a lot of non-dairy milks have a lot of sugar added, or they're fortified, or they have a lot of extra ingredients that are hard to pronounce and aren't super clean. And so I'll show you when we go to the polenta, which the soy milk I found is just water and soybeans. And so it's super clean, super whole foods. It's the closest thing you could get to making just your own alternative milk at home. Making soy milk at home is not the easiest thing. Making almond milk and nut milk is pretty easy, but soy milk is a little bit harder to make at home. So that's why I'm using soy milk today. But I did consider using oat milk. I'm sorry. If you go to there's an oat milk brand called Minor Figures, and if you go to their website, they have some really awesome graphics about the impact of different alternative milks and dairy milk on the environment, both in terms of emission and water use and land use. And so it's really interesting to see the comparison of different milks, both dairy and alternative, in that realm. And what it shows is that dairy milk, it has the biggest environmental impact, followed by almond milk. So almond milk to grow almonds uses quite a bit of water, not a lot of land and not a lot of emissions, but a lot of water. And especially most of them are grown in California, where there have been, it's getting better, but there have historically been water shortages and water restrictions due to drought. So almonds have a pretty big environmental impact in terms of alternative milks, whereas oat milk and soy milk have less environmental impacts. So I've been moving away from almond milk and more towards oat and soy and some rice milk too. But the rice milks, again, have a lot of additives in them oftentimes. So I'm trying to eat as cleanly as possible. And so yeah. So now I'm just chopping up some veggies for our fry later, stir fry later. Just getting them ready. So some people don't like using the broccoli stems, but I think the stems are actually really awesome. They have some of the highest protein content in all of the broccoli, and they have really good fiber. So I think it just adds some really nice texture and fiber and protein, and they're nice to chew on while you're cooking if you're hungry. They're not quite as pretty as the florets, but we're going for nutrition here. Alright, so we got our broccoli cut up, and now I'm just going to cut up a carrot real quick. Alright, we got carrot, and then some more garlic for our veggies. Garlic's really great for the immune system. I'm going to just do a lot of garlic today because the weather kind of keeps getting hot and cold here, and I really don't want to get sick, so I'm going to up the garlic. So last week I kind of showed some of my tips for getting garlic skin off. Someone told me I did it pretty quickly, so I'll just say it again. So one way I do it is I kind of squish it with my palm, and then it kind of just, the skins kind of fall off, mostly. Now this is a great example of it not doing it that great, and this skin is kind of sticking a little bit more than usual, so I'm having to mess with it a little bit more. But that trick usually works pretty well. Or what you can do, you can kind of take a clove and kind of push it together and twist, and that usually gets the skin off pretty well. But again, this head of garlic, the skin likes to stick to this, so it's not working as well today. There we go. All right, let's do one more clove. If your palm doesn't work, or if it's too hard, you can also use the flat edge of a knife and squish it that way. All right, so we got another great question. What kitchen tool can I not live without? I would say a knife. I think every chef needs at least one good knife. Now, having multiple good knives is nice, different sizes, different shapes, but this is my favorite knife. I don't exactly know the name or the style, but kind of has the curved top, not the flat top, flat bottom. This is it's my favorite knife I've ever used. And it's made by Bloodroot Blades, who uses all recycled material in order to form their knives. So they're a really awesome company. My partner got this knife. It's his. It's not technically mine. I just use it most often. But he got them before the company really blew up, so which was awesome. But they make really, really beautiful, 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 beautiful knives from recycled material. So like the handle, for example, is recycled burlap. All of the blades are reused and repounded steel. So yeah, a knife. Because the rest of it, you could, garlic you can chop. Everything else is kind of, you can squeeze your own lemon. You don't need a lemon squeezer. You don't need anything like that. But one good knife. That's a great question. No one's asked that before. All right, so we're just going to put it out. All right, so all our veggies are chopped, and our kale is done. It's just in this bag, so. And it's perfect timing because our oven just turned off. So I'm going to rinse my hands real quick, and then we're going to put the salmon in the oven, and then head to the stove to start doing, to make our polenta. And then you're going to cook it from anywhere from 12 to 20 minutes. It really depends on the thickness of your piece of salmon. So my salmon's kind of in the middle, so I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes. But if you have a really thin piece, do less. If you have a really thick piece, you can do more. And you can always check it and see if you want to add more time. Do that. And then we're going to head over to the stove. So we're going to start with making our polenta. So you don't have to use, I'm kind of using a bigger saucepan so you can kind of see it, but you can use one that's more bowly than flat. Bowly is the official term for it. So we're going to start with some olive oil and heat that up. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to saute up some onions and garlic and to make our polenta. Now I gave in the description I gave 2 different options for polenta. So if you use just dry polenta, or it's like, essentially grits is also polenta. You can do that and then use water, and you cook it like any other grain, where you boil the water, add the grain, let it simmer and cook and absorb the water. I couldn't find organic polenta at the store in that form, so this is, for lack of a better word, tube polenta. And so this is already pre-made, and then it's kind of pushed into a tube. So that's what I'm going to use today, because that's what I was able to find. All right, our oil is hot. So we're going to start by just throwing in the onions. And then cooking those up until they get nice and translucent. while those are cooking, I'm going to start breaking this polenta up into a separate bowl. Now, with corn products, it's really important that you get organic corn products. Corn and soy are two things that are really important to get organic if you're gonna only pick and choose because of the amount of pesticides used in the production of corn and soy. Now, why are pesticides such an issue? So pesticides are chemicals that help kill bugs, obviously. Pesticide. And because they kill bugs, there have been arguments made that they don't affect humans. Now that's not true, and we're seeing more and more data coming out that it does in fact impact human health, and it does that in a couple ways. So one is that there are toxic chemicals that are cancer promoting, and they cause mutations in your DNA that can promote cancer. So that's one aspect. And then there's also chemicals in it that are called xenoestrogens or xenohormones. And what those do is they trick your body into thinking that they are hormones, and they mess up your natural hormone rhythm. Hormones in your body are super important for every function in your body, and also imbalances in hormones can promote cancer or an environment where cancer thrives. So pesticides really are important to avoid in your food, which is why buying organic is important. And so I've mentioned this in the past, but the Environmental Working Group is a website and an organization that publishes every year a list of what they call the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And those are different lists of foods to focus on if you're gonna buy organic only intermittently. Let's say you can't afford to buy everything organic. Those are the foods that are more important to buy organic. The Dirty Dozen are the more important foods to buy organic. The Clean 15 are the less important foods to buy organic. So I'm gonna rinse my hands real quick so I can stir these onions. Now, another thing that has xenoestrogens, this is just a plug, this just came to my mind to talk about right now. I wasn't planning on it, but since we started talking about pesticides, a lot of body products that we have, or body products that we use, include xenoestrogens as well. So the Environmental Working Group has a really awesome, they have so much on their website about different products that have less impact on our health and less chemicals in them. And so if you want to kind of clean up, quote unquote, clean up your lifestyle in terms of the environmental toxins that you're exposed to, that's a really great website and reference and resource to make better and healthier choices. So I use them quite a bit to see, is this new conditioner that I'm using pretty safe, or they have a bunch of they have a one for that's all about makeup and different makeups that are better for your health. All right, so these onions are getting pretty cooked. So now we're gonna add in the garlic and our spices. Some garlic, throw that all in. And then we're gonna do a tablespoon of thyme. And it is a lot of spice in this, but it's going to be awesome. Tablespoon of thyme. And a tablespoon of rosemary. And then a tablespoon of oregano. And then just a little bit of paprika, just a couple shakes. All right, and then we're gonna mix that. Ooh, that's still got hot. Mix that all in. Now, if you are using dry polenta, what you're going to do now is you're going to mix in your water or your broth, and then bring that to and half of the milk that we're going to use, so 1 cup of milk, and then bring that to a boil, and then add your polenta in, simmer it, and then cook it until it's all absorbed. But for me, and what I'm going to do, since I'm using pre-made polenta in the tube, is I'm just going to add that in. And that was one of them. I'm going to add one more. See, it comes out like a tube. And you want to squish it up as much as possible. Try to get the clumps out. We'll do a little bit more of that later. This makes me feel like a little kid again, just squishing stuff with my hands. And then we're going to mix 1 cup of soy. So, like it was asked earlier, so I'm using Pacific Foods soy milk, organic soy milk. Again, soy is another really big one, like I mentioned earlier, a really important thing to use organic because of the use of pesticides in soy production. And Pacific has been the one company that I've found that really has a really clean soy milk with no other additives. So really, it's hard to find actually in terms of alternative dairy milks. And they're local to Oregon, I believe, so that's cool. And then you're going to mix that all together. Now, using the tube polenta, you end up with chunks. If you start with dry polenta, you don't end up with those chunks, and so kind of ups and downs to both of those. But again, I just couldn't find an organic. I could find a non-organic dry polenta, but not an organic at the store that I went to today. I'm going to mix that all in, and then with the tube polenta, what I'm doing also is kind of like smashing it and trying to get that as creamy and as smooth as possible. So if you're using dry polenta and all the moisture is absorbed, then you can go ahead and add the last bit, which is another cup of soy milk or another cup of milk. And then a little bit of nutritional yeast, a little bit of lemon juice, and some maple syrup. Now I like adding, some recipes will add all the milk up front, but I like adding half and then another half. because I find it makes it a little bit more creamy at the ends versus having it all get absorbed. And I even will sometimes add like even a little bit more milk right before I serve it just to get it extra creamy and one more time. So we're going to do a couple tablespoons of nutritional yeast. And then this is about a little less than 1 lemon's worth of juice, so about half a lemon actually, so about half a lemon's worth of juice. Just already had it from cooking yesterday. And then about a teaspoon of maple syrup. And now we're going to mix that all in. Oh, I forgot salt. Salt and pepper would be a good thing to add. Oh, I didn't, well actually I say, I didn't add salt. I didn't actually forget salt because this tube polenta that I have has salt in it, and so I'm going to taste it before I add salt to see if it needs more salt. But if you start with dry polenta that has nothing added, then it's probably a good idea to add salt. But I'm also going to add some pepper. Oh, and it sounds like our salmon's ready. There we go. Beautiful salmon. Turn the oven off. And I feel really fortunate. I live in Oregon, and we have some local wild salmon from the Chinook region, so that's what I have today. An awesome, sustainably sourced fish market. Alright, mix that in. Alright, now while I'm finishing up the polenta, what I'm going to do is start heating up some oil for our veggies. And for the veggies, we're just going to do a really easy saute and use the flavor of the onions and the garlic to flavor them. Plenty of salt in mine. So I'm not going to add any salt today, but that's good. Alright, so we're just going to let that kind of sit. Oh, I forgot to cut up extra onion, so we're going to do that real quick. What I love about doing the show is you all get a really good taste of what it's like to actually be in my kitchen while I cook with me, which is when I forget stuff, or I drop stuff, or I burn myself. Y'all get to ride that wave with me. Luckily, I haven't cut myself yet. Although now I probably jinxed it. Alright, now we got some onion. Throw that in there. Woo! Oh, it's hot. Now that oil is probably a little bit hotter than is good for it because I did use olive oil. So as you might be able to see, it's kind of smoking a little bit. That's not really a good thing because essentially I've pushed it past its smoke point, so it's very oxidized at this point. But I'm going to go with it for right now. But it isn't the healthiest thing to do for oils because you really should keep an oil below its smoke point. Alright, so we got our onion cooking now, and I'm going to throw in our carrots and broccoli. And for the polenta now, I've just like turned it way down, and it's kind of just sitting, staying warm, and marinating in all its flavors. Switch those so you guys can get a good view.